Shell, right? So we spoke about Shell a few weeks back, and this activist investor, Third Point, took a big stake. They wanted to break them up. We poo-pooed it and said, this is terrible. Why are they doing this? Bad. But I think obviously management agrees. So what they have done, or what they just announced last night, is actually to do a bit of a restructuring. So a bit of history in case you weren't paying attention in school, right? Shell is Anglo-Dutch. They are like the equivalent. They were the equivalent of the British East India Company, which is why they are called Royal Dutch Shell, right? And they are based
Oh,
in
I didn't know
both.
that.
Yeah, see, history lesson, right? More than stocks.
Yeah, I did not pay
And
attention in history
yes.
class.
But yeah, back to the financial part, they are kind of removing their headquarters from The Hague in Holland to London. They are removing their tax residency from Holland to England. They are collapsing their share classes, which we can talk about a bit more later, but they're still maintaining their listing. So it's a corporate move, essentially. They are not breaking up their business. It's really just to slightly simplify the corporate structure slightly, and hopefully, unlock value, because that's always the reason for this sort of things.
Maybe if you could dive down a little bit, right? So why are they doing this? Unlock value. What do they mean by that?
Yeah, so I think, well, the Dutch part is history, right? So they actually have two share classes. So not only are they listed in London, they're listed in Amsterdam, they're listed in New York. They have, and in each of these they have different classes of shares. So they have A shares in Holland, and they have B shares in London and New York. And the reason for this was really for tax efficiency, because Amsterdam had higher dividend withholding tax. So they had this whole convoluted structure of having a different share class, right, which would pay dividends into a different shell company. Shell company.
Right.
And then move it on to back to the shareholders to kind of tax equalize it and make everybody whole, right? But that also meant that they couldn't do as much share buybacks in London, because that depends on trading volume. They couldn't. They just had their hand tight because of the share structure. And that's where I think the gist of this comes in. The Dutch thing is just it's nice, but the whole point is to collapse the share structure and kind of kill the Amsterdam listing, even though they keep it there, just so that it's simplified and they can do all the buybacks that they want, because with all the divestments, they have a lot of cash coming in that they'll need to return. So I think Shell is a dividend play here. Or a
Got it.
buyback
Okay,
play, right? Yeah.
so if I can clarify, basically they had a very complex structure, which involved a lot of administration to even handle passing money here or buying back shares from either London or Amsterdam.
Yeah.
And they would just
A
want to make it
a
simpler.
lawyer's bad dream.
Right. So
I
in
saw
other
this,
words,
like,
what
this is exciting.
look at how much I can bill.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so clearly they're unlocking value by not paying lawyers. I think that's brilliant.
Well, I mean, the
So,
lawyers
yeah.
will charge this one-time fee to unlock value, and yeah, but that's essentially it.
Oh, no, fair enough. So then what we're saying here is that they're making this whole entire system that they currently have, which is a little convoluted because of history, right? And the fact that it's archaic, right? It was just there. So what they're doing now is like, okay, one shot, let's make it all clean. Let's make it easy. That will allow us to either buy back all the shares when we need to, or in which case be a bit more manipulative in the market.
Yep.
Would you say that?
Exactly.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay.
Good
Okay.
summary.
So they're not, oh, thanks, man. So they're not splitting up like part of the business here or part of the business there or whatever.
No. It's all trying to play around with the shareholding structure. It's nothing to do with the actual business. Which we talked about last time, and we said, yeah, it's better probably to
Doesn't make
keep
sense.
the businesses as they are.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So in this case, you mentioned it's a dividend play. So
Yep,
you
pretty
expect
much.
a lot of net profits and you expect dividends to grow as well with this company, Shell.
I think, well, I mean, in our part of the world, we like dividends, but I think in London and New York, they prefer share buybacks just because of tax, right? But yeah, I think, look, what what they have been giving out in terms of buybacks and dividends is 2 billion a quarter, right? That's per calendar quarter. They are
Wow.
expecting just in the fourth quarter of this year, just from one transaction alone, 7 billion, right? Of which 6 billion need to be returned to shareholders. Right.
Mm,
So
okay.
that's the amount of cash that they're spinning off with divestments and the ESG transition. Because let's face it, right? Wind, solar, they are very cheap, to build. Unlike they are projects in the millions and tens of millions. They are not unlike LNG projects, which are in the billions. So it's a lot easier, and I think they will be spinning off a lot of free cash flow that they can't really invest in because renewables don't take up as much cash. So they will have to go back to shareholders sooner or later. And I think that's where the real value is unlocked. As they
Got
divest,
it.
as they transition, that they will have to keep going back to shareholders, and this move is a way to make all their subsequent share buybacks a lot easier,
Got it.
and
Got it.
hopefully that reflects in their multiple as well. So win-win.
Yes. When do they expect this to be done? Over X number of years, I presume, or
Probably the
do we
next
know?
year or so.
1 year.
It's going to be getting moving tax residents and headquarters is a difficult thing. Unilever did the same thing actually last year, and it took about 18 months. So
Got
probably
it.
about
So I
there.
expect about the same. Cool. Well, it's nice to hear a company moving to London as opposed to companies moving away from London for now.
Yeah, surprising, right? Brexit and people go to London. Oh well. Well, but
Yeah, I
the
know.
Dutch have had a bad reputation recently, so yeah, not
Got it. Got it.
unsurprising.
Awesome, man. Thanks for that, Anthony. That was great news.